Welcome everybody. I'm Darryl Reeves, and welcome to the podcast today. Today I am with my friend and colleague Christopher Power, and I've asked him to come on this podcast and to investigate and delve into and make commentary on, from his understandings in human design and many modalities that he's an expert in, on the phenomena of Jordan Peterson. If you are familiar with Jordan Peterson, then he probably needs a little introduction. But if you're not, he is a guy who has, in the last 2 years, risen from being a relatively obscure professor in a university in Canada to becoming a hugely well-known. Whose noise is it?
I'll take care of it.
You get rid of it. To becoming a huge phenomenon on a global platform. He's speaking multiple times a week around the world, doing hundreds and hundreds of live presentations, and he has hundreds of YouTube videos out there. He's on just about everybody's podcast, from I won't begin to name the names. Anybody out there just about has invited him on. And the last estimate I heard was that across all the combined media, the guy has had somewhere close to 1 billion views. I mean, that is a phenomenon. I don't know that anybody in the history of YouTube has had 1 billion views in such a period of time that, weren't the Beatles or the Rolling Stones maybe, but and maybe even you might be giving them a nudge. So that's a phenomenal thing, and I ask myself, as a guy who's very interested in human nature and the way humanity works, and as a guy who, in his now early mid-60s, has spent all of my professional career showing and studying an interest in how we work as human beings. And so 4 years ago, I came across this guy on my right here, Christopher Power, and we became fast friends, largely because his technology and understanding intrigued me, and also because he moved into the condo that I live in, and there's not that many people that I relate to in this condo, but he's certainly up there. So he began the journey with me, and I began the journey with him of delving into the technology known as human design. We're not here to really talk too much about human design entirely, although Christopher's going to draw on his expertise. I call him my human design professor. What we're going to dig into for a lot of this podcast today is into the what is it about Peterson that has made him such a phenomenon, and what can we learn about ourselves with this sort of understanding that can take us to the place where we show up in the world as our best example, at our best, being our best, enjoying our best, and really adding something to the world in which we live. I don't think there'd be too many people on this podcast now and who will listen to it in the future who wouldn't have that desire in themselves to be their best and show up as their best. So I'd like to introduce Christopher now and just give you a thumbnail sketch of his background, and feel free to slap me about if I get it wrong. But Christopher's a performing artist. I got that wrong. Okay, sorry. That's the wrong cheat sheet. That was Mick Jagger. Christopher's a trained geologist. Yes. By professional skill. What was it, 4 years at a university in Melbourne?
Yeah, geology and geophysics.
So, that's why he's got these lovely little examples of some geology that came out of the earth, because he's got an attraction to that and affinity with that whole dynamic. And he's also a numbers guru. His dad was the chief financial officer of one of the largest breweries in the world, Carlton Breweries in Melbourne, Australia. I think they became Foster's, is that right?
Yeah,
When you've probably all drunk a Foster's if you're a beer drinker, or at least you've seen it on the shelf. I see it and ignore it. Drink real beer, but I won't offend Christopher by going on about that too much longer, because he was a professional taster at the Carlton Brewery.
Seriously. It's called the research laboratories. Literally.
Yes, I'm sure you were supposed to just swill it around and spit it out mostly, but anyway.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, and I don't. That's what I do with it too. And he's also an accomplished metaphysician across a number of different modalities, and with skills in all sorts of, down to earth and up in the heavens and everything in between type of understandings. And he's a consultant. People got a regular consultancy practice where people engage with him individually and corporately. If you're a corporate, it's upwards of around $10,000 a month to have his time and his attention. And so he's got some value, I feel, based on this sort of stuff. He's also what I like to call affectionately as my human design professor. Now, I've studied most of the great profiling systems, and I've been qualified in a couple of them. I've used them in my own life and experience. And for those of you that aren't familiar with me, I'm a businessman. I have an online shopping mall based out of Australia, but it's a global shopping mall. It's the largest shopping mall in the world. In Australia alone, we have 33,000 merchants engaged in our Australian merchants, because in Australia, Aussie Mega Mall, you can only join it if you're an Australian registered business. You can't join it as an offshore company, because part of the purpose and function is to stop the offshore drop shippers from invading the territory of a local country and taking away the prosperity of local people in a local country. And so we're supporting Australia, and in New Zealand, the Kiwi Mega Mall, and in America, the USA Mega Mall, UK Mega Mall, blah, blah, blah. So it's a relatively new venture, and I've been involved in that now for a few years. I've had a lot of different business experience as an entrepreneur. I grew up in a Christian home. I grew up in a minister's home, so I was a preacher's kid. So I've had that whole cultural experience of Christianity. Ended up being a minister myself for 2 decades plus. And today I'm not in the ministry. I wouldn't even really classify myself as a Christian, but that is my cultural heritage and where I've come from. And for all the upsetting things I could say about it, there were many wonderful things about it as well, and it's part of what's made me who I am today. So enough about us as individuals. I want to get right to the heart of this whole session today, and give the floor to Christopher a lot more. But let me just say one more thing about human design, because experientially for me, when I first came across this technology and understanding, I was skeptical, not because it was human design or anything else, but because it's my nature to be skeptical, or, investigative, shall we say, in a more positive frame. I don't accept something because you tell me it's so. I accept something because I inculcate it into my daily experience. I test it, I try it. If it works, I adopt it and I build on it. And if it doesn't work, it gets the shove. So what I've learned with Christopher's help and of course my own research, which has been quite substantive independently, is that there's stuff here that really works. And as a very previously highly driven individual, which can be explained in human design jargon, which I'm not going to do, but let's call it driven. Everybody understands that. Some people would call me an A-type personality. I'm certainly not a wallflower that shies away if I want to, but I can be quite shy as well. But having had thousands of hours in front of audiences, I know how not to be shy, like just in this moment right now. So this technology has really helped me, and I thank you, Christopher. I want everybody to know that you've made a difference in my life, mate. And I'm really happy to call you a friend. So from your understanding of this technology and this whole way of mapping someone as an individual and as a personality, what is it most immediately obvious to you when you look at the map of Jordan Peterson, this phenomena on the world stage right now, that you go, well, that's bloody obvious? you know.
Okay. Like you, he's one of 8% of the population whose primary function is to initiate new things.
Right.
Right. So the fact that Jordan Peterson has become so popular so quickly marks a turning point. It marked, particularly as he's reached, well, he's been seen 1 billion times, more or less. And that means that people are ready to go to the next level, to do something new.
Okay, so that's sort of saying that it's timing. It's not just who he is and what talents he's got, but he's the right guy in the right place at the right time. Is that what you're really saying?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
it's a signal to everybody that something's up. Things are on the move globally.
I think anybody that watches the news a bit or a lot, and anybody that's a bit of a reader and a bit of an avid student of human nature, which will be everybody on this program today and everybody that joins us later, would fall into that category, where they would observe that, well, hell, a lot of stuff's going on. I mean, technology is like the thing that's just going through the J curve at the moment, isn't it? But when you study human, you know, the map of Jordan Peterson's design, how he sort of, you know, shows up in the world, what is the point, is the standout point from a human design perspective? Is it the fact that he's here to initiate new things? Is that what stands out?
His primary function is to get things started, to get things moving, to initiate them. However, when you look into more detail, and I won't get all jargon-oriented or whatever, when you look into the detail, the thing that just occurred to me when you're asking that question is, I was born in 1948. Right, so I'm 70 now. And that was just after the war. And my parents were pretty conservative people, happy to be alive.
Well, your dad was in the war, wasn't he?
He was in the war for 6 years.
Picture up there, everybody. Is that guy in the lovely cap? Was he?
He was in the Royal Navy and then the Australian Navy from before the war started to the end of the war.
Right.
He went all over the world.
And his rank?
He was the captain of the destroyer.
Wow. So that's, you know, he was obviously a well-disciplined sort of guy.
Very disciplined. I mean, one of my favourite stories of him is taking his crew in to open up a Japanese prisoner of war camp. And the sailors being so shocked that he had to stand in front of his own sailors with a gun in their face to stop them killing the Japanese.
Wow.
That's the type of level of integrity that he had. You know, it'd be
good if we could get a bit of that going down between the Republicans and the Democrats in the USA right
well,
now.
That's the one thing that comes up as you bring this up, is he was a responsible man.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I was born 3 years after the war. I grew up in the 60s and 70s.
Right.
And became one of the original hippies in Australia.
Yeah.
So my father was highly responsible.
And you became a castaway.
I became a renegade, a hippie. I pursued not necessarily an anarchist, but I pursued freedom.
Yeah.
Right? And that was a huge part for decades of my life.
Right.
And then a decade or so ago, one of my great mentors made something clear that I didn't take so seriously at the time. And they say, freedom on its own leads to tyranny.
Yeah.
Responsibility on its own leads to dictatorship. Freedom and responsibility have to go together.
Of course.
Because when they do, you realise power. Now, that's my name. So I remembered it. You know, my last name is Power.
Taken a bloody long time to learn it, mate.
It's taken a while. And part of the reason was I rejected my parents' strong sense of responsibility, pursuing freedom.
Yeah.
Now, it was part of our whole generation, but I pursued freedom. And what I've discovered in the last 4 or 5 years, really standing out, particularly since I came to Thailand, of all places, is that freedom without responsibility doesn't get you where it doesn't empower you.
Yeah.
Right? And responsibility gives you the ability not to be tyrannized by your mind or your ideals or your concepts or even your beliefs.
Yeah.
Right? And what I've seen in the world now with, say, left-wing politics. Now, I've been basically left-wing most of my life, actually until the last couple of years. And it's not that I've gone to the other extreme. I'm integrating both together.
Yeah.
And I've seen the tyranny in left-wing politics.
And right-wing politics at one.
Well, that becomes, when it goes to extreme, it becomes a dictatorship. And there's plenty of those in the world.
Exactly.
So you need both. And the one thing that I see people like Jordan Peterson really driving home is we've got free speech and we'll fight for it. But if you're going to have free speech, you've got to be responsible.
Yeah.
And you've got to use it responsibly. And the purpose of it is to empower people. So you need to be responsible for what you say and then treat other people with respect, give them the freedom, but respect what they say. And out of that emerges empowerment.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a bit of a speech.
No, it's good. It's very good. I'm on the page with you entirely. I think that this is the thing that's, the pendulum always swings to the left or to the right, and it never stops. It goes, oh, good, we found the balance point. Let's just stay here. That just doesn't happen. It's always swung. And, in your dad's generation being
well, responsibility kept you alive.
Responsibility kept them alive and stopped the tyrants from dominating us and got the tyrants dealt with.
Yep.
And brought that, that into a place of responsibility, into the middle ground. And so, yes, I've probably been a leftist myself for a lot of my life, although don't really consider myself political. But in terms of my values and, I'm a very creative sort of guy and quirky, and I like thinking outside the box. But I like to, if you ask me what's my political disposition, I'd say I'm a centrist. I don't want to be right on the middle line, but I continually strive to enjoy everything in a balanced way. And I guess coming from just let me finish one more thing. From my Christian heritage, I'm mindful of teachers that said in the scriptures things like, all things in moderation. And of course, I grew up in the environment where it was all about the moderation, not the all things, and I was tired of that. And so I rebelled as a teenager and went my own crazy way like you did. But then I've sort of, in my later years, when I come back into myself, realised that it's not about the moderation, it's not about the all things, it's about all things in moderation. Exactly what you're saying, integration.
Look, I discovered a hell of a lot of things that have truly defined my life and fulfilled my heart and soul, on that search for freedom. However, what's the point of coming here and realising I'm a spiritual being if you don't live a human life? Because this is one of the things, this is a gift.
Yeah.
Right? Now, Peterson, when you look at his design, has this ability to really show people the value of the past as preparation for opening up to and embracing the future. In other words, to take the best out of the past, to let what is no longer valid go, and to use freedom creatively. Now, I'm drawing upon a bunch of things to do with his astrology and numerology as well, but I don't make a big deal out of those. It's more like, what can you do with them practically? He is highly educated, highly tuned, very intelligent, really big picture,
extremely well read.
Yeah, person. Well, you look at his numerology, it's right there, but his design is very powerful in terms of extracting and showing people their true value. What's the value of being a human being? Now, his direction in life is to become a spokesperson, like a leader, for using freedom responsibly.
Yeah, well, isn't that so evident in everything he says? I mean, I'm a bit, I binge watch when I find someone I like. I usually, I've been through, I could list tons of names, and you've heard a few of them over the years. People that you'd think that, like they're my guru, but they're only my guru for a month or 3 months or however long I take to absorb their message.
Right.
And then I move on to the next, person that can contribute to me. And I do that, because I have an appetite to do that. I mean, it's like when I'm hungry, I'm like all of you, I eat, if it's available. If I'm thirsty, I drink,
Right.
And when I am thirsty for information, and as I've learned through you, part of my function in life, the way I show up, is I am an investigator, an above average sort of investigator. In other words, we might all investigate, but I go to extremes in certain ways. So I've learned that about myself. And I look at Peterson, and clearly he's got an ability to communicate in his design and makeup.
I would put it, he has an ability to inspire.
Yeah, exactly.
To lift people to see a bigger picture.
Yeah.
Even if he's challenging what people are saying to them. He said, step back and look at the picture in a complete way, not just a particular way.
Right.
Now, right at the moment, we've had years, decades of not only freedom, but idealism, spirituality, searching for meaning, embracing a bigger picture, looking for a new world, but thinking it's going to show up in some sort of idealistic way, rather than realising our world is going to grow and evolve and mature, and see things more. We're going to be more global, but that means we have to get along better with each other.
That's right, because we're interacting with all these different cultures.
I mean, both our partners are from totally different culture.
Totally different.
Right? And where responsibility is actually more weighted than in our culture. And that's had a very powerful effect on both of us.
It is. It has, and my comment about that is that when I first came here, I incorrectly sort of summarised in my own head that, Thailand is a country that's sort of like, 20 years behind Australia. But it's not. I mean, it might be in terms of enjoying wealth, and money, because only a few people have got the sort of money that the average person in Australia has.
Right.
But on so many other levels, they're so sophisticated. Exactly. And what's happened for me, Christopher, is that it's really brought me back into a lot of my roots in terms of respect and values, and getting closer to that integration point, becoming more integrated, which has taken quite a lot of the stress out of my life, even though the world we live in is more stressful than it's ever been on some levels. But on a personal, internal level, the stress is diminishing the more integrated I get with myself, my environment. I mean, nothing's more connected to the environment than a Thai guy walking around in a rice paddy barefoot, behind a bullock cart, ploughing the ground, or out there actually stumping the little rice stakes into the ground.
And here's the thing, it's not just the Thai guy.
No, it's the Thai women, the kids. I mean, my wife, everybody was, she was out there doing it at 6 years of age, 4 years of age, 3 years of age. Exactly. Sometimes it'd be a whistle in the paddy field and everybody knew the tigers were coming by or the elephants were coming by. I mean, God, imagine growing up in an environment like that where you got to...
Well, I went from one of the best public schools in Melbourne to 4 years at university at the same time. Not at the same time, but the same age. My partner left school at 11 and worked in a rice paddy till 24.
Yeah.
And she, in many ways, is far more grown up, responsible, adult. I have learned so much, not from her intellect, although I do not in any way underestimate that. It is very powerful and perceptive, unbelievably powerful and perceptive. But in terms of integrating responsibility and love of family and true commitment and willingness, it's just profound. Now, when I look at someone like Peterson, I see the same thing, that sort of commitment to what they truly have experienced in their life. And you look into his life, he's been through some tough times in his life, put it mildly, and risen above that and integrated that and made that real. And he doesn't see the world as this beautiful, idealistic thing. He sees it as it is. And right at this time, people are going, okay, we've developed technology. We've developed things like spirituality, idealism, global connection, education to such a level. Now, how does this work in the real world? And someone just lately said to me, there's theory and there's experience, and then there's application of the theory and the experience. And that's where it makes a difference. And that's where we're at in the world globally. How do we apply all that we've learned in the last 50 years since that terrible war, those couple of wars last century? How do we apply it in the real world as human beings, not just waiting for some idealistic? As a person who's looked into my spirituality deeply, I now realise my responsibility is to bring that into the real world and apply it so that it makes a real difference to my life and the people I love and the people I work with, not to drag them off to some idea that I had. In other words, how does this work so that we enjoy being alive in a human body?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, when I left school, I was a lazy student and I was keen to leave early, and my mother, desperately wanted me to go to university, and I desperately didn't want to. And she said, well, you're not going to leave school without going and get some sort of additional qualification. So we reached a point of compromise where I went and became an electrician and did my advanced trade and into electronics and stuff like that. And she kind of accepted that. But when you want an electrician, you don't want them to show up and explain the fundamentals of electricity and what's going on. You just want them to fix the bloody thing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Give me the theory, what's that diagram?
Yeah, well, you've got 3 prongs or 2 prongs. There's a plus one and there's a minus one. And don't touch them both together. All that,
Just fix it.
Just fix the damn thing, yeah.
And show me how not to screw it up again.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, here we are using technology. We know how to use it, but we don't know how to fix it.
Exactly.
Right. If we want to fix it, we get an expert in to fix it. And, I think that...
And how do we apply it so we all benefit?
Exactly. So, you've run off and done your areas of study, and I've run off and done my areas of study. And we're here to contribute to people and add value to them and help them fix, if necessary, something that makes their life that much more smooth running. And I see Peterson as an incredible fixer on some levels because, as people that know his stuff can observe, people are flocking to those meetings of his and his YouTube channels and so on because they want to find out their purpose.
And they want common sense.
They want common sense.
And they want it to work.
Yeah.
They want their lives to work.
Yeah.
Now, people have gone to a lot of people over decades, Tony Robbins is one of them and stuff like that, because they want their life to work.
Yeah.
But we're at a point now where it's not just if my life works and it doesn't work for the people in my life, or it doesn't work on a global level, it's going to threaten my existence. It's not just not good enough. It's like I cannot develop myself in a world where other people aren't benefiting.
Yeah, we've got to move together.
Yeah. Otherwise, we're going to create more of what happened last century, and we're having enough trouble getting along.
Yeah, exactly.
It has to be turned into an asset, not a liability.
So talk to me about how your understanding of human design is here to help people get in touch with themselves, and how accurate is the technology, and how does it help them get in touch with how they should function efficiently and, stop having as many problems, perhaps?
Well, I've looked in depth at 3 fundamental technologies over the last 40 plus years.
Yeah.
Okay. One of them, which is working with numbers, really gets down to what are the bottom lines. What are the the things that are essential. It's not, is it this part or that? It's like, how do you operate as a unique individual in the most fundamental ways? The second one goes into much more detail about what's your direction in life and how you're put together from birth.
Yeah.
What human design did is take the best out of, well, aspects out of both of them, bring them right up to date. It's the equivalent of having maths and physics and putting them together to create computer technology or rocket ships or better electrical systems.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same.
Yeah.
You get the numbers and the physics, used to be called astrology and that, but it's numbers and physics, maths and physics. And you put them together, and human design was putting those both together and applying it to how human beings are designed to operate in their physical lives, in the real world, so that they know what they're here to do, how to do what they're designed to do, and the most important and overlooked till now part of human design is how to receive the support you need so that you can do what you're designed to do and function to your full capacity.
Because you can't optimize yourself, or as Maslow said in his
Get the best out of yourself.
you know, self-actualize all by yourself.
No way.
You actually need other people.
Yeah, try holding your breath.
Yeah, well, I can do it for, you know, a little bit.
Unless you receive support,
Yeah.
unless you receive oxygen, you're going to go nowhere.
Yeah. So, and you know, I've studied a few ancient civilizations, you know, certainly in the biblical stories, and that's another thing I love about Peterson, because he's never come out and said he's a Christian, but he certainly knows a lot about the Bible. And I don't think he's out there to promote a religion or Christianity or anything else. He's out there to promote the archetypal stories, or the metaphors, if you like, of ancient understandings, because way back then there was more of an oral culture than a written culture. And so they would share the stories, and the stories would have the meaning, just like my mother shared the nursery rhymes with me. And to this day, I can remember so many of them, because now I've got an infant myself, and they're just popping straight back in there. And I'm realising they're not just great little songs and ditties. A lot of them actually carry a message. And those messages prepare us for what's ahead in our lives. And so it is with the stories. You know, if you haven't already seen these stories of Peterson's, where he does maps of meaning and he does you know, biblical stories, they're just great stories, but he brings them into the modern era and makes them relevant in the now, you know, what it is. And you think about the Egyptians, they obviously had incredible technology. I mean, they built the pyramids. We haven't worked out how to do that today. But they built these incredible structures. And I was watching a National Geographic show, I think it was, or a BBC show recently on the pyramids, and how they could use these things to channel wind and sounds and so on, and create sounds inside them that would have a resonance with the physical body of a person sitting on a table that just as strategically, mathematically worked out position, and find themselves being healed of all kinds of maladies. And obviously they predicted the seasons and, you know, all that sort of stuff by where the sun was in respect to these things. So this is serious technology. And I think what I know a little bit about human design, you know so much more, is that it combines, it doesn't reject these old technologies, but it integrates them with cutting edge science and physics. And
exactly, which is what I love, because I'm a trained scientist. I love science.
Yeah,
I love maths. That's what I graduated at. And yet at the same time, I see the wisdom of thousands and thousands of years.
Yeah.
And I love putting them together, not separating them out, isolating them. It's just like the world. It's like taking two different cultures and putting it together, and the benefits that come out of that. And human design, look, I've seen so many things over 40, 50 years that are new. Yeah, but this is the most practical, down-to-earth, useful. In fact, I don't think it's been truly exploited for what it offers.
For sure.
That's part of what I'm doing, is right on the cutting edge going, where can this be taken? How can it be used in ways that are far more practical?
Yeah.
You know, till now it's been theory and experience. How do you apply it in the real world in a way that you don't have to educate people with all the jargon, but you apply it to real life?
Yeah.
And that's the beauty. That's why I like human design, but I don't limit myself to that.
No.
I still draw upon numbers. I still draw upon science. I still draw upon things like astrology. Like you draw upon the past, you know, Egyptians, the Bible, and Peterson draws upon stories. I draw upon the legend of King Arthur and Merlin and Guinevere and the beauty of that in its original form, because those stories convey so much of the context that makes the information come alive.
That's right. Memorable too.
And memorable and integratable so that you can use it.
Yeah.
Applicable, yes, exactly. And so that's what I see people like Peterson doing. They're the right person at the right time, because people are hungry to put all this. We've had 2 wars last century, major global conflicts. People then going looking for freedom and something greater. And it's all been in preparation for something where we put it all together. We're now connected globally in a way my father could never imagine when he was in the Navy. You know, we're now able to, I mean, the things that we can do now compared to 5 years ago are extraordinary with the internet.
Yeah.
And now it's time for us to grow up. Just to put it really simply, we need to grow up as human beings. We need to learn what it is to be adults. We need to learn what our true potential is. And that potential is evolving at an unbelievably rapid rate right now. And the beauty of human design is it brings it down to earth. It actually goes, and this is how it works in your real life. Like, this is how you make decisions. This is what you're designed to do. This is how you're designed to receive the support you need so you can do it. Don't try and do receiving, it'll mess your life up.
Yeah.
Open yourself to receiving the support and then do what you're really designed to do. People call it your purpose, but what you're designed to do. And then you start to see not only your life making sense and being a hell of a lot more fun and productive, but you start attracting the people and working with the people you're really designed to work with. And people start to grow and benefit and blah, blah, blah.
And you have an understanding how to navigate the challenges, because even when you've mastered it, I think a lot of people were fooled a bit, you know, when you know, the whole Jesus movement hit Christianity and the charismatic movement, and everybody got all excited about that, and that was going to usher in the new era and all that, and Jesus was coming tomorrow and all that sort of stuff. And then the New Age came in.
Did exactly the same thing.
Did exactly the
Look,
same thing.
I was at the beginning of the New Age.
Yeah, I think
I was one of I was writing half the manuals for it. I mean, and it's literally become like, when is our imagination, our dream, our vision?
When's our
thoughts,
Saviour coming?
Yeah, when is it all going to happen and everyone else finally get it?
Yeah.
It's like, you're meant to get it.
Yeah.
Live it, share it, and other people will see the common sense in it if it makes sense in your life, and then they'll relate to it in their own way. And for me, it's like the New Age, on one level, and I don't want this here to two-way out, misinterpreted, the New Age is dead. Long live the New World.
Yeah, right. Like
because the world is evolving. It's not like, it's people are finding a lot of the New Age stuff hard to relate to now unless they join a particular club, or unless they have a particular mindset. Whereas for people like myself, it's like, take the best out of what we got there and share it with people in a way they can relate to. Now, my partner is Thai. She doesn't speak very good English. We speak enough, and we've got Google Translate, thank you. And we really understand, having been together for 3 or 4 years now, you know,
fluent in Thaiglish.
Thaiglish, yes. We know how to relate and communicate. But trying to convert her to my understanding is ridiculous. But when I've looked at her, she understands human design better than I do in many ways, and she doesn't even know what the words human design mean. Because she's living in a very down-to-earth, practical way. She's highly intelligent, by the way, and her daughter is unbelievably intelligent. And these are smart cookies, right? But they haven't lost their connection with the real world, and they haven't idealised it into some sort of, I'm living in a farm now. They live it with their feet and with their bodies as well as with their minds.
Sure, well, they're in touch with the seasons as well.
Exactly.
And, the greater bodies of the cosmos, if you like.
And they love their family, and they commit themselves to taking care of their parents with a passion that absolutely stuns me. But it's so inspiring. Now, people like myself who went off chasing freedom and spirituality and higher meaning and true purpose.
Left your families to do whatever your family was doing.
Pretty much. Yeah. That was my experience anyway. Not everyone did, but boy, I did.
But a lot did.
A lot did. And now we're coming back and saying, well, if you found anything reasonable and meaningful and useful, bring it back to people.
Yeah.
Don't point your finger at the conservatives. Bring something useful to them. Right?
Yeah, it's not an elitist club. It's not a separatist club. Which is what it's become. It shouldn't have become.
Yeah.
It needs to become an inclusive club where everybody's welcome. Not only if you can dress this way, speak this way, think the same as me. Freedom of speech means you think the same as me and we say the same thing. That's how it's become in reality. But that's not what it should be.
Look, even with human design, I've seen it slowly start to become a club.
Yeah.
With its own jargon, with its own
absolutely.
thing. And look, there's beauty in that. If you want to go and study the theory, fantastic, because you'll get all the jargon and all the bits and pieces. Like if you want to become an engineer or a mechanic, you'll go and learn all the jargon and all the things and everything and keep up to date. Yet human design is one of the most practical ways of getting in touch with your design, your purpose, because you're designed for a purpose, right? Absolutely. And then how you're uniquely designed to fulfill that purpose, in other words, what you're here to do, and how you're here, as I've said already, to receive the support you need so you can do it without getting swept away by what other people are getting involved with or what their ideas in that are. And that's an incredibly fine balance, but it's what being human is all about.
It is a fine balance, but it's also it doesn't take a lot of consideration to realise how bloody obvious it is. Like, I spent years, it's obvious to her, and she doesn't know the technology or the jargon, but it's obvious because in so many ways she's living it. And I spent years as a property developer, and I've had more properties than I can remember. And I used to buy them and renovate them and build them and sell them and all that sort of stuff. And everybody out there that's have any interest, even cursory interest in property, knows the maxims of property. Position, 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 right? It's all about position, position, position. And I think I relate that story or that truism, if you like, to other aspects of life, like, for example, this technology we're talking about today, so we're talking about purpose. So purpose can be defined. Purpose can be defined by a similar sort of three set of words. And I took the time to just make a couple of notes to myself. But position, 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 or our value, our prospects, and our purpose. They can be explained in this way. If you were owner of a property in Main Street, High Street, where all the commerce goes on, Woolworths is there, or whatever the shops it is that you relate to, JC Penney's or whatever's out there, Nordstrom's or something, your piece of quarter-acre block of dirt has a different purpose than a similar sized block of dirt out in the middle of the boondocks somewhere, right in the middle of the desert, where there's no traffic, there's no roads, there's no streets, there's no people. You wouldn't build a convenience store out there, would you? I mean, not if you're in your right bloody mind and you wanted to actually make some money and get a profit or be profitable.
I'm just laughing because my partner opened up a Herbalife shop, and the first thing I did, this was a long time ago, she doesn't do it now, but the first time I ever visited there, I just looked around and it was like not a great position for doing business, although it was opposite a gym.
Exactly.
But that's about it. But the people who ran the business were setting people up to run that shop because it suited them for whatever purpose it was.
Exactly.
But without the right... See, the thing about human design...
So that was like making a rice paddy in the middle of Main Street. I mean, yeah, you could have a rice paddy in the middle of Main Street, but why would you when the land's got a higher purpose than that?
Exactly. Now, if your design is out in the middle of the desert, one thing you bring to people is the ability to get away from it all.
Yeah.
Right, to chill out, to find peace, to have a bit of time alone, right?
Yeah.
All that's real value. And you
build a retreat out there.
Yeah. But if you're in the middle of the city,
yeah,
you've got a different purpose. Well, we as human beings are the same. Each one of us has a design with a purpose.
Right.
And the thing that I've worked all my life for in the last 11 years on is how do you take the map, you might say, or the design sheet that human design is of a human being and go, this is a really clear map of what you're here to do, how to receive the help and what your purpose is.
Interpret it, basically.
Interpret it so that it resonates. It makes sense to you through your experience. You don't get distracted into the things that pull you away from that. And you feel great about doing what you're here to do. And then you don't just do that, you go out and get the benefit.
Exactly. It's like, you went to school, I went to school. Luckily, we were blessed enough to go to school, and you went to university. And you learned so much more than you ever really needed. But because at that point, you didn't really know what you were going to need in the future. Mm-hmm. So you learned a whole lot of stuff, a bit of maths, bit of English, bit of geography, a bit of history, bit of science, bit of this, bit of art, bit of something else. And you get this thing called an education in the sausage factory of education systems that we have in the West, because we can't actually sit down with individuals. We don't have the resources to do it and actually tailor the system just for you. But yes, exactly. But you can do that. So that's what you do with your individuals. You go, well, take all that learning. I'm glad you can read. I'm glad you can understand my English because that gives me a big head start. And now I can begin to tailor something for you that brings out all those unique little things that make you blossom or, make you shine or whatever illustration you want to use. So that
then take it for partners and for teams.
Yeah, how it fits with everyone else.
So how to put teams and relationships and everything together in such a way that you're both benefiting not only from each other's unique gifts, but you're combining to get them together in a way that actually 1 + 1 = 11, which is an old thing that I've worked with numbers for a long time. Or 2 + 1 = 21.
Yeah.
You don't limit yourself.
Well, as I've heard you tell me a few times, numbers don't mean anything until they're in a perspective of position. Right, exactly. If I said I live at 14, you go, what the hell does that mean? Well, you've got to give me the street name. You've got to give me the town. You've got to give me the country. That would help.
Yeah, exactly.
I went to 14, you weren't there. I know, you went to America, mate. I'm in Thailand. So it brings me to the point that, in this discussion, we've talked about the purpose of our lives, and particularly the purpose of Peterson to, to inform people of their responsibilities and their freedom and integrate them in a very powerful way. And I'm sure he hasn't even really fully hit his straps yet. The best is possibly yet to come. But let me ask you now, Christopher Power, what is your purpose? Why are you here? What is the purpose of Christopher Power? Okay, so I can speak from my own experience about it, but what's your...
Yeah, a great question.
Dialogue.
Look,
to me.
position. I've just turned 70. So that makes it, my purpose is
exactly
different than what it was when I was 5.
You weren't born in 1848, which would make you 170 and you'd be dead. So you have a different function in 1878 that you have in in 2018.
Yeah. Well, what I'm getting at is that you asked me this question several weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I just stopped literally put everything aside. And what came out, because it's true, and I know this from 11 years of my design and all my life experience put together, it gelled to this. I said, Darryl, I want to empower people so that they can do what they want with integrity. Right? My purpose is to empower people to live the life they're designed to live.
That's nice. I like that. I mean, it's simple, empowering people, and that comes through in.
Seriously, I love doing it.
Yeah, well, it's great,
and I'm very good at doing it.
You are.
I am, but the love of doing it is what really brings out. And the other thing, what's in it for me, for those who go, yeah, but what's in it for you, is I'm only now getting people demanding the very best of me to come out. And I haven't, until people go, this is what I want, how do I make this work in the real world? No one draws out of me the full creativity and potential that I have. And I want that to emerge, not for my enjoyment, for the benefit of my family, but also the benefit of my clients.
Of course, and it's kind of, it's a bit like the Peterson phenomena. He's hitting 60, close
been drawn out.
And it's only just happening for him now, and yet all these years he's been putting into ones and twos, little classrooms of students that are keen to learn, psychology and stuff like that, and he's been a clinician, so he's obviously worked lots, and 25 years I think he's been a clinician, working one-on-one with people, helping them sort their lives out. But now all of a sudden life has taken him to a point where, okay, you've done your apprenticeship, mate, you're 58 or whatever it was when this all started to happen, and up he's come onto a larger platform. And I think we're all a bit that way. We get our training, and then we come to the point where we have we fulfill an even bigger purpose. I mean, there's lots of stories where you could talk about that. You've got so many stories like that, but one that springs to my mind because of my history and cultural experiences, the life of Christ. 30 years in preparation and obscurity. He was a nobody virtually, except to his mum and his dad and maybe his immediate family. And then all of a sudden he's on this massive stage for 3 years, and he's impacting everybody and fulfilling his purpose, and then he's gone. Right?
Okay, I'm just laughing because I'm thinking, oh my God, is Jordan Peterson the second coming? No, we're not saying that.
It's not at all.
We're not,
Look, the second coming's already happened. Christ is here now. I mean, the Christ consciousness, the Christ spirit, it's the body of Christ, if you want to take the analogy of, and I'm not preaching Christianity, we are it.
Yeah, this world is.
Yeah. So, and sorry if that offends your sensibilities, not. Because it's just how it is.
It is. Yeah. We've got all that history is maturing into us. Human design makes it clear we're about to make another major evolutionary leap by learning how to be not only able to survive and mentally sophisticated and smart and aware, but also emotionally aware and emotionally discover emotional clarity. And that doesn't mean everybody does it in the same way, but what that means is we are able to relate to each other at a level we've not been able to do successfully on a large scale historically.
Yeah.
And we're now at that point. And one of the things I was watching something of Peterson's last night, and he was talking to a lady who'd been interrogating him very full on for about an hour or so. For an hour or so. And he just sat back and he said, look, I haven't heard anything. I've heard what you believe, but I haven't heard anything from you that comes from your experience. And it's not interesting hearing just the same thing I hear from everybody.
Yeah, I don't want to hear the dogma, thanks very much. I grew up with the bloody dogma.
Tell me, share something of yourself with me, because that is going to be, I mean, as a clinician as well. Yeah. And I'm similar in the sense that I've been working with people for 35 years one-on-one.
Yeah.
And it's like, I want to explore you.
Yeah.
And what's going on in your life. I don't want to bring a whole bunch of generalised principles and dump them on you.
Yeah.
I want to help you take what you've understood, the wisdom that's out there, and then how does that work in your life? How do you gain access to it? Or how do you bring a whole new level of wisdom because of your gifts into the world? What support do you need? What do you do? How do we make that operate? And I've found that a one-time sort of consultation or meeting gives you an insider glimpse. You know, maybe it could, but it doesn't do as good a job as working with people as I've done lately over 9 months.
It's like smelling dinner. It's not like eating dinner.
Exactly. And
that smells good. I love that.
It's not like changing your diet for 9 months and seeing the benefits actually show up, you know, in loss of weight or gain of strength or whatever.
Exactly. So, you know, as you pointed out, and as I know well now, you know, my purpose, in part at least in life, is to initiate things. I'm a great person to get things started. I'm like, you know, if there's gold in that mountain, I'm like the dynamite, can blow the crap out of the way, and now you've got to dig away and refine it and to get it out, but I can open it up for you. And so I want to initiate something for you right now based on what I know is your situation, because you have this master design program that runs for people as well as your corporate stuff that you do for, you know, 10 grand a month, but you actually get a real buzz out of working one-on-one.
I've done it for so long, I love it.
Yeah, and you're good at it. So, and I know you've got 3 positions available right now. You've got the you know, people start, they go for 9 months and then they come to an end, some renew, some go, that's great, I'm good, thanks very much, done your job. And so you get positions.
Sometimes we go into business too.
Sometimes you go into business, exactly. So you work with people once a week for 9 months, right? And so
they need that time to digest between sessions.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, the human species is a 9 month sort of species. It took 9 months from conception to show up here and then even after that, there's nurturing that goes on. You know, you need support for a long time as a human being. But I know that you get a lot of delight out of helping people discover their purpose. And so I know you've got 3 positions available, and I know they're, you know, $8 grand a month or $8 grand for 9 months or something. Is that right? Yeah, $7.97.
Yeah, but we both agreed we hated that. So
what do you do? Give the $3 back and get people to have it for the properties. So it's $8 grand. It's $8 grand, and
we'll give you a $3 discount.
Yeah, and so these spaces will be commencing in the middle of January, right? Next year, is that right?
They'll be starting in January.
Yeah,
as soon as people are ready after the new year.
But you want people to book in this side of Christmas?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to throw in something to support you for whatever value I can contribute as well, from my business experience, my past experience in life.
Darryl is an incredible initiator. If you really want to get started, I mean, he changed my life when I met him. Not that, you know, I'm only now beginning to appreciate that, but he has an ability to relate to you incredibly well as a person and socially very sophisticated, but wake you up to what is truly possible in your life.
And what's important.
And he's done that for me.
I want to wake people up to what's important. You know, that's really how I feel my personal mission is. And I've kind of spent
business experience you bring to the table.
I've got a lot of that. You know, I've started private companies and taken them public, IPO, and you know, I've got a tiger by the tail at the moment that's just going to go crazy pretty soon. I'm not 100% certain what we're going to do with that, with an IPO or, you know, something else, but it's huge. So yeah, I'm going to offer 2 sessions that they can take any one of those weeks. Once you start in mid-January, they can take 2 sessions with me anytime between when you start them and the end of February. Okay, they've got to take them in that period of time, 2 months. By the end of February, they've got to have taken them. And I know you'd like to get the business end sorted out before Christmas, so you're going to be thinking about promoting these 3 spaces into over Christmas and the new year.
Right.
So the deal is, folks, for $8 grand or $7.97 to be precise, $7,997, sorry. You can have Christopher for 9 months, once a week, and on top of that, you can have me for once a week as well. You can either do it, you know, 2 in a week, one with Chris, one with me, or you can put them in as long as you get them done by February. Make the bookings with Christopher, and he'll let me know. And
so there's 2 sessions.
2 sessions I'm offering you, yeah. So, and you can talk about anything you want. There's no schedule. I won't do anything you don't want me to do. But if you want my experience, my perspectives, I mean, I'm a trained counsellor as well, obviously being in the ministry for 2 decades and growing up in a preacher's home for 2 decades before that. You know, I've got a lot of experience with people, a lot. I've done over 4,000 live presentations. I've travelled the world. I've had daily radio and all that sort of stuff. I'm an insightful guy, and I can initiate things with you and for you that will have an impact in your life. I know that for sure. And I'm not just blowing my trumpet. I'm too old to be frigged around doing that.
It's speak from my own experience.
It's just who I am. So you can go and check me out a little bit. I've got a website I'm just starting to put together. It's by no means finished, but you can find me. It's just darrylreeves.me, darrylreeves.me, and you can read a bit about me, see a few pictures of my family, and get a feel for the kind of guy I am. And you can also go to Christopher's website. What's the best one I'd use?
Well, the best way at the moment, we're just rebuilding that properly. Yeah. Okay. You can go to masterhumandesign.com, but if you truly want to be part of this opportunity, which is my right, email me, and we'll have the thing at the bottom of the video. It's CP,
Christopher Power,
CP at Christopher J. Power, one word, ChristopherJPower.com.
Yeah, well, that's easy. So, and we'll put it in the link below this email, below this video, sorry, and you'll be able to see that, and I'll host this same video on my own website as well. So thanks for your time today. Thanks for having the confidence to join with us. Trust that you really enjoy it. And those of you that look at after the event, if the special offer's gone by, email Christopher anyway, because who knows, you know, other people might be finishing in time, and another space may come available. And we're
going to put this out straight away, so if you didn't see it live, you've got a good chance.
Yeah, well, if you want to see any bits of it again, and you know, that's fine.
The era of responsibility and freedom is now upon us. That's why it's not one or the other.
Yeah,
responsibility and freedom working together empowers. It leads to power. And to live in the world that we've all been dreaming of, thinking about for centuries now, but over the last couple of decades, we really need to empower ourselves and each other and be in our power.
Exactly.
Which means we have to be free and responsible and free.
Yeah. And hey, look, it's been really fabulous spending this time with you and with you too, Christopher. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Darryl.
And look forward to communicating further in the future. Have an absolutely wonderful Christmas with your family, hopefully, or some good, meaningful friends if family aren't accessible. A large number of my family live in other countries, but I have family here in Thailand as well. And I hope that, you know, you have a great new year. Be responsible. Don't overdo it, you know. And don't
feel free to have one.
Don't have too much, but have some, you know, all things in moderation. And I hope that 2019 is going to be just a very meaningful and wonderful year for you all. May the Lord bless you. Thanks.
God bless you.